Hi, how's everybody doing? I'd like to welcome you to my presentation on preventing cigarette litter at Rutgers University. Thank you for coming. I'd also like to give a special thank you to Jennifer M. Jen, President of Keep America Beautiful Incorporated, and I'd also like to thank my professor Lauren Fedorko for letting us use her classroom for today. Okay, first I'm going to go over my agenda here. I'm going to first go over an overview of effects on cigarette litter. Then I'm going to talk about some models of success for prevention, and that will include education on cigarette litter. Keep America Beautiful Incorporated their program on cigarette litter prevention, and new innovative receptacles that are being used in London currently that have been implemented this past year. Then I'm going to talk about my plan for Rutgers, and then following I'll talk about costs of my plan, and then I'll take any questions at the end. So first off, why is cigarette litter a problem? Cigarette litter is consistently the most collected piece of litter in America. By piece count, they collect about 4.5 trillion cigarette butts per year. Now, not only are they most consistently collected, they're also very harmful to the environment. They contain a lot of harmful chemicals that contaminate water. They take a very long time to degrade. They take, which is like about 12 years for a cigarette butt to break apart. And some of the chemicals they include are arsenic, which can contaminate the water and soil. And since cigarette butts are so light and easy to blow around, they're very quick to find themselves into water sources like rivers and things like that. And 1 in 10 cigarette butts end up in waterways like rivers and places like that. Now, aside from how harmful they are, they're extremely costly to clean up, between about $500,000 and $6 million in certain cities. $6 million be a city around the size of San Francisco. And lastly, people don't think that it's a big problem. It seems very insignificant because cigarette butts are so small. I have here, it says almost 75% of people admitted to littering at least one cigarette butt. And also, aside from the people that actually do litter that think it's insignificant, people that don't litter and they witness people littering cigarette butts don't think it's a big deal either, because you never see any confrontation with people that are littering their cigarette butts. If it was something else, if someone dropped a bag of garbage on the street and you witnessed that, you would go up and say something. But every day, people litter cigarette butts and no one confronts them about that. Okay, so here's I'm going to talk about some cigarette litter at Rutgers now. If you look at this map right here, this was a study done by students, a map created by students in 2013. You can see all the areas, the icon that shows the cigarette receptacles, and you can see that the cigarette receptacles, no matter where they're placed, they're still pretty consistent cigarette litter around every area. Now, if you look over here, this picture I took last week. This is out front of Alexander Library, and you can see this right here, this thing standing up. This is the cigarette butt receptacle that they have at Rutgers. They have these all over, in front of dorms and libraries and things like that. And if you see where I circled here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cigarette butts just in this maybe 2 foot radius around this cigarette butt receptacle. So clearly people don't care that this is here, no one's using it, and they litter right next to it. So this is proof that people don't really not everybody uses these. And now this is just a very short, small portion of the sidewalk, but this is right at Alexander. From here to the communication building, there's cigarette butts in this type of grouping from Alexander to the communications building, and the whole sidewalk is littered. And this is not very different from many places, many sidewalks at Rutgers and everywhere. So this is a big problem at Rutgers. So ways to prevent cigarette litter. first I'm going to talk about education and showing people and doing things like this, explaining to people that it is a big problem. Then I'm going to talk about Keep America Beautiful Incorporated and their cigarette litter prevention program. And then I'm going to speak about, as I mentioned earlier, the receptacles in London that they're now using that have been pretty effective. Okay, so first off, education. So one thing about littering, it's a conscious act, cigarette litter to be specific. There's two types of littering actions. There's active littering and passive littering. Active littering would be if you're walking around and you drop a piece of litter and you continue to walk. Where passive littering would be if you were sitting on a bench and say you had something, a cup or food item or something like that, and you put it down, and then before you left, you didn't take it with you, you just left it there. That's passive littering. Now, sometimes people sit down and smoke and flick their cigarette butts. This is still considered active littering. And one thing about active littering is that since it's a conscious act, it's easier to get people to stop, because when you have a habit that you're conscious of, it's more subject to change than if you were unaware that you were doing it. So that's one reason why education is so helpful and such a big success when coming to things like this. Now, people don't care, and there also people are unaware. So if you don't care, it's most likely because you're unaware of all the effects that cigarette litter has, in America. So education alone can decrease litter by up to 50%. Now, also, another reason why education is helpful in stopping and preventing litter is because non-smokers would also not tolerate litter as well as people that do smoke. So this would change people. People would go and confront smokers that litter their cigarette butts, because now they also are educated on what those people are doing. When they see someone litter a cigarette butt, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but there's 20 cigarette butts in a pack. So if you see someone littering one cigarette butt, more than likely they're littering all 20 cigarette butts that they have in the pack. And your average person smokes about a pack a day. That's 20 cigarettes a day from the one person that you saw throw that one cigarette butt. So it's really not as insignificant as it seems. As I said earlier, 4.5 trillion cigarette butts get littered each year in America. Okay, now, aside from education, another very successful aid in preventing cigarette litter is a cigarette litter prevention program run by Keep America Beautiful Incorporated. Over the past 7 years, the program has consistently cut down cigarette butt litter in half within the first 4 to 6 months of implementing their program. And it consists of 4 parts, which include encouragement of litter law enforcement. So they go around and try to help enforce litter laws that are already active. They don't make any new laws, but if they're in a city that has current litter laws, you never see anybody getting tickets in New Brunswick for littering. They would try to enforce or encourage enforcement of these types of laws. Now, they also, part of the program is to install new ash receptacles, like the ones I showed in my picture at Rutgers, things similar to that. And they would install them at transition points, places where, high traffic areas and stuff like that. And then they also do a lot of educational campaigning. Now, I talked a lot about education in the previous slide. They are a big part of their program is going around and educating people on effects of cigarette litter. And Keep America Beautiful, as you can see, they have a lot of things that they do in their incorporation, but one of their big focuses is on cigarette litter. Now, they also distribute pocket ashtrays. Most of the time, this would be at some type of educational meeting that they would have. And their program is effective in a very large variety of places. So Keep America Beautiful has implemented their program in downtown areas, college campuses, marinas, beaches, you know, parks, big events like, um, concerts and things like that. So they're very experienced and organized organization. They're good at what they do. Now, another great thing about their program is their outcome. Their decrease in litter is sustainable. So, one study that they did, they first showed in their first year in one city, they showed a 48% decrease in cigarette litter, and the second year they saw an additional 17% decrease in cigarette litter. And aside from just cigarette litter, their program also decreases all litter and just general litter. So they had their program implemented in 12 downtown areas in Arkansas, for example. They saw a 68% decrease in cigarette litter, and as well as a 33% decrease in all litter in general, just from their campaigning on cigarette litter. So obviously that would be good to affect everything at once. Now, as well as the program, the cigarette litter prevention program, this is something different in London. They've installed these new innovative receptacles around London, and as you can see in the picture, people are using them. They're very effective. These are made by a company called Hubbub, and Hubbub has done the same thing. This is in 2015. It's kind of new. You can see it's successful, but Hubbub has also done a similar type of thing with to prevent gum litter. So gum litter is a big problem. It's a big problem in London, and what they did was they put a board, and they had people walk around. They could stick their gum on the board to create a picture. Now, this was very successful, and this is another thing that they're doing. It's very innovative and creative. It's easy to understand. You can see here, there's a metal plate here on both sides to where you can ash out your cigarette, and there's a hole. It's very obvious. There's also another section of the board that explains all of this. If this isn't obvious enough to someone, they have another board here that I have cut out of the picture, but it gives very clear directions. And people actually use it, as you can see. Now, this obviously caters to London's pop culture. Everyone in London, for the most part, are big fans of soccer. So, who's the best player in the world? Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, or Lionel Messi? These are two very famous soccer players, if you don't know. So, clearly here people favor Ronaldo. Now, this isn't the only question. Another thing they do is they change these questions, I think every month, so it keeps people's interest. They update it, and it keeps it fresh, still, fresh, new, fun thing to do. Also, they're very bright. You're not going to miss this on the street. If you see this, you're going to stop and read it and, see what it's all about. So that's a great way to prevent cigarette litter. Okay, so now my plan for Rutgers. My plan is to have Keep America Beautiful Incorporated come to Rutgers and implement their program. Now, I want them to come in and hold educational assemblies. They can have at the student centers, and in order to get students to come, I want to incentivize attendance by giving out gift cards. This is something that Rutgers is already doing to get people to participate in things like surveys and other types of assemblies. They'll send out an email to all the Rutgers students and say, hey, we're having this event. We're going to give out gift cards. We're giving out 50 gift cards between, $50 and $300. So you come in, at the end, they'll give you a free gift card. They'll pull a number. You get a free gift card if you win. I know it gets a lot of people to attend things like that. Another thing they do, which I don't have here, is free pizza, T-shirts, things like that are cheap for the school at a mass, wholesale type of value, and it gets a lot of people to attend. And then finally, I would like to introduce similar receptacles, like new receptacles that are similar to the ones in London. Obviously, if we were to use the receptacles from London, the only difference that we would need is to change the receptacles to have questions that have American pop culture. So, for example, who's the best player in the world? Instead of the 2 soccer players, 2 football players or 2 NBA players, and questions like that that cater who's your favorite actor, who's your favorite musical artist, and things that will pique people's interest and pique students' interest. Questions that can pertain about Rutgers. There's an endless amount of innovative and fun questions that we could get students to use these new receptacles. And also, we won't need any new staff when it comes to maintenance for these receptacles, because since Rutgers already has receptacles and they have them in key points, they have them at bus stops, they have them at outside of almost every dorm, every classroom building, and every library, which is about 150 locations across Rutgers. They already have people that maintain these, so we wouldn't need to hire anybody new, because whoever is maintaining the current cigarette receptacles will just switch over and maintain these new receptacles. They can empty them out, and it will be the same as if they were emptying out the old receptacles. Okay, now for cost. Education, this would be free from Keep America Beautiful Incorporated. They're a nonprofit organization, and this would be a donation of their time to come in and talk to students. Now, gift cards, if we spend about $1,000 in gift cards, give away $1,000, that's a good way to, you split up the $1,000 into $100 gift cards or $50 gift cards, and you say we're going to give all these out and to incentivize people to come. The new receptacles are going to run about $25,000. If we get 150 receptacles, that's going to cost about $15,000 with a $10,000 installation. And as I said, the new receptacles will be maintained by currently employed staff, so there will be no additional cost there. It would just be the installation and the cost of the receptacles. There will be no long-term maintenance. So there would just be the upfront cost. Okay, thank you guys very much for your time and for coming to my presentation. If anybody has any questions or comments, you're free to, I'll take any that anybody has right now.